Hey there, it's Eric J. Olson once again on a live. This time it's for Journey to $100 million. That is our daily podcast. It's on all of the podcasting platforms. And we have a new channel also up on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com or the YouTube app and just search for Journey to 100 million, we'll pop right up. So all of our episodes are up there on YouTube at this point, at least for the last several months. And all the new ones will be going up there as well. What I'm doing today is this is a live recording. So it's being broadcast out to social media and to YouTube. And I have a guest on. I'm going to bring Alex on in just a minute. But what we're going to do is do the live recording. And from this live recording, we'll take about a 3 or 4 minute segment, and that will turn into a future episode for the podcast. So without further ado, let me bring in Alex. Alex is from BizPay. Hey, Alex.
Good to meet. Nice to be on.
Hey, man. I appreciate you making the time.
100%. Good. Great to be on here. Thank you.
All right. So I know the answer, but I don't think anyone else does. That accent, that's not an American accent, is it?
Yeah, no, straight from Southern Africa, from Johannesburg. That's where I'm from. And based here now in Los Angeles.
Right on. That's awesome, man. Well, hey, welcome to the States. How long have you been here?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. All right. What brought you to America?
I think I reached like a level of complacency in my heart, in my gut, and a big group of us came to a festival called Coachella in 2018, and we had a really, really, really good time. But I think it was just this feeling that like life is short and there's so much out there. So I kind of just went with my gut and took the leap. It was really, really difficult on like the ego and just moving, but super grateful I made it for myself.
That's really impressive. I do not think that I could do that.
No, it's a lot, but it's you just go with the flow. Go with your gut. It helps.
Did you go right to LA?
I went straight to Los Angeles. Had a very good friend here, and yeah, it was a good soft landing, and grateful for that.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, cool. Let's hear a little bit about what you do, your business, things like that.
100%. So, as mentioned, originally from South Africa, went to an all-boys school, grew up with an amazing mother that supported me. I'm a single child, and yeah, she kind of gave me the best in life, and was very fortunate to go to a really great school. And just in terms of being raised by like an incredible woman, that foundation put me in good stead. And I think growing up, it's kind of like not from a place of scarcity, but just seeing how my mom sort of like not struggled, but really pushed, and it was difficult as a small business. It really encouraged me to get into financial systems and payments, which was a big drive. And that kind of accelerated my sort of career path. And I studied accounting and went straight into my first entrepreneurial journey in payments. Over down the lines, it was it was a lot of lessons learned as an entrepreneur, diving into businesses, getting burnt, learning, and then very fortunate to working with great people, and started a point of sale solution, which advanced into a B2B banking software for point of sale. And then over the course of the years, I was doing a lot of consulting, a lot of work in the fintech and banking space in South Africa. And then when I came to America, I kind of just went straight back into what I knew, and started helping a lot of fintechs with developing relationships with banks, and just in terms of their growth strategy. And along the lines, being entrepreneurial, saw the opportunity with my partner in Australia around how to kind of defer payments for businesses, especially getting a lot of motivation from great businesses and leaders from the likes of like Afterpay, Klarna, Affirm. So that motivated the opportunity to kind of offer a solution to allow businesses to buy a service or product now and pay later. We focused initially on the recruitment sector, whereby we offered companies the opportunity to hire now and pay later. That grew really well, especially in the Australian market. And organically, a lot of businesses drew the value out of that, and they started asking us if we could offer it for other payment forms like construction, logistics, app developer, all types of B2B services. And then we kind of made the service more B2B agnostic and changed the name to BizPay. So it's been a great blessing, a lot of learnings along the way. But yeah, I think like B2B fintech is where I'm really passionate about. So yeah, that's kind of where we are today.
Cool. Very cool. I'm going to share your website
Sure.
because I think it's really, really quite cool. Oh, not that. Here. So improve cash flow, reduce costs, and increase sales by allowing your clients to pay in 4 monthly installments. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, that's really pretty cool. And the first thought was like, why 4? Why not make it variable or something like that? But I'm sure there's a reason. I love to hear it. But I just think the concept is great. And I think it's also one of those things that's kind of like out of reach for a lot of maybe smaller businesses. Like I know, like if I were to buy like a piece of furniture or something like that, that the furniture company gets paid up front, even though I'm making payments to a third party over time. But I've never considered doing that for like my company. Yeah, like let's dive into that. Like, number one, like, why are people doing it? How did you land on 4? I'm sure you tried different durations, and tell us a little bit more about the offering.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, a lot of businesses, as mentioned, are using it for different types of B2B invoices. And like a lot of, I mean, for instance, with a recruitment firm, they would use it if they were to like sell their services for a sales position. And for instance, with the sales position, once that person is hired and if they are of good value, the incremental difference of that person bringing in sales and actual bottom line revenue overcompensates for the small fees that we would charge them to defer that payment. So especially on like a smaller stage credible business, to kind of gain value from the extended cash flow with a very small fee, there's a material difference and all parties win. So kind of like with our business model, we really try to ensure that both the client that's benefiting from extended cash flow, the merchant or service provider that's getting paid up front for cash flow purposes, we try to ensure that all parties win, and very transparent in that approach. That's kind of how we got there. And in terms of like the full payment model, we tried numerous ways. I mean, we tried it to extend from 4 to 12 months. So we didn't want to over extend ourselves also in terms of like risk. And also we wanted to make sure that they can be cognizant about paying something within a smaller period, similar to how a consumer pays using a buy now, pay later solution, similar to a firm or afterpay. So we kind of test and trialed, and yeah, and so we settled on something that added most value to them.
I love it. So I actually I wish I would have discovered this a couple of years ago. So we used to do websites. We're a digital marketing agency, so we build websites and then provide the marketing after that. Um, but the websites was one of those things that we always sold back in the day as a project. So one time fee basically, and then we got more or less draws as we were doing the work, right? So when it was 25% done, we would charge 25% of the overall cost. But it was still a project, and it took us a long time. We did finally separate out the actual work from the billing schedule, and now we have recurring services and recurring revenue. But this would have been really, really, really good to have a couple of years ago when we were still doing the project work. So I would think like anybody that's out there that had any kind of project work. And by the way, is this like unrestricted as far as the kind of work? Like, could it be like putting a roof on versus the website, like anything?
100%. As long as it's B2B,
B2B.
that's the key. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would, yeah. So for us, it would have been perfect, selling a website. And then we get paid immediately, but then the customer gets 4 payments.
Correct.
And then the other thing that I saw was actually, I'll bring it back on here. I know it's maybe a little bit hard to see because we got a lot going on, but over on the right-hand side, it says is a 4% fee, but we assume full collection risk. That's really
correct.
strong.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of like work in the background in terms of like the due diligence on the type of businesses that we service, but we are trying to, and that's continual development over the time. We've of course assessed different types of invoices and different types of vendors and clients, and are continuously building up different data sets to determine how we can, of course, offer the solution. So yeah, there's a lot of data to back that up, but that's kind of, we try to make it as as frictionless as possible, and that's key, of course.
Yeah, man, very impressive, very impressive. So Well, cool. Hey, so yeah, this is the Journey to $100 Million podcast, and it's all about tips and mistakes that we've made and lessons learned about growing our digital marketing agency. But the reason I asked you to come on is because we don't know it all. I mean, we every single day we say, we made all these mistakes and we're learning as we go. But I love to talk to other business owners and entrepreneurs and kind of pick their brain about some of the lessons that they've learned. My guess is you've probably made a couple of mistakes along the way as well, and maybe have some lessons learned. If you do, what do you think are maybe like some lessons learned, some things that people should keep in mind, either when they start a business, like really early on, or maybe once they get it kind of established a little bit?
I think, especially in like the early stages of a business, it's that honeymoon period. Where everyone's exciting, everyone's adding value in different places. But I do think laying down like key responsibilities of the founders is really important, just to manage expectations in the future. And it's nice to have things written down, because as humans, there are so many different variables that come into our life, especially as businesses grow, and there's upsets and good moments. So it's really important to like define, even if it's high level expectations in the beginning. I think that really sets a good precedence for everyone involved. So yeah, like I think my mom's old school. She said get everything on paper, and that's really a good thing. It's not really based off of like distrust. It's based off having a good foundation, similar to the philosophy of building a home with a good foundation. I think that was like a key lesson, especially being in businesses where people felt that like they added more value, or they just vanished, or doing too many things, and that was like something very key. I think really like culture is really important, and not falling too in love with the narrative, whether it be like a particular role that you're hiring or a particular investor that you're getting, just because they're a big name or have come from a certain background. I think that's really good to be cognizant about, because sometimes you may bring in external resources like cash from an investor, but their energy may not be aligned. There may be a lot of subordination, and a lot of like early stage businesses feel they have to subordinate to a lot of older people, or richer people, and they don't really go with their gut, and sometimes that puts them in bad stead, and makes them go backwards. So I think kind of being really true to yourself, in terms of like bringing in people and resources, regardless of their title or their money. I think that's a key lesson I'd like to share.
That's awesome, man. I agree. When we first started this company, it was a merger of two different companies, and so I ran one company, and my current business partner Kevin Daisy, he ran the other company. And so when we merged, like we knew we were doing the right thing, and it's turned out very well, but we didn't do a great job of defining our roles. So as two co-founders, there was a lot of overlap, which in some situations was a good thing, but in other situations it wasn't. And over time, we kind of realized we need to tease out some of these responsibilities, and that's helped a lot. It's made us a lot more efficient. So I think you're spot on there, definitely.
And I think to add one more thing, and also to just be vulnerable, is that like the one thing I've only learned really properly in the last year, especially after getting like a personal coach, was about like being aware of my pros and not my pros and my gaps. I think and then what I'm good at, and not trying to be pathological and convincing myself that I can become an expert at certain things, and rather just focusing on the strengths. Like for instance, I'm like a go-getter. I'm very impatient. I'm like an implementer, executor, and there's a lot of things that I would kind of just proclaim that I could do, and then rush through them, and then the end result is we'd have to go back, or there's an error, etc. So I think being very open with people, and lowering the ego is like so key. It's like prevention is better than cure. Yeah, that was something I became very aware of, and that's helped now very going forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept too, because I think naturally we want to focus on improving our weaknesses, but I certainly hear a lot of successful people, you being one of them, say focus on your strengths, right? Like double down on your strengths and forget about your weaknesses. If anything, maybe hire someone part time or full time to complement you, and that their strength is your weakness, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and it just creates such a good flow. Yeah, and also I think yeah, just to add to that is like really enjoy the journey and like really have fun with the people you're working with. I mean, in the day, life is short, and there's been so many people that have passed away with enormous businesses, etc., or like money in their account. And I think really just enjoying the journey with the people, having a laugh, like just lifting everyone up. I think it's just really important. And like sounds very LA, but like to do things from a place of like love, regardless of the industry, etc., it always brings like a good ROI. I think even from my old business development efforts, whenever I've like reapproached like a prospect or a partnership, that lead, if I approach them in a very authentic, human to human manner, I've always had good responses, whether they would accept the solution or like keep the relationship. I think that's key into any business. It's just like it's truly just being good and respectful, regardless of the role. It just puts you in good stead. So yeah, that was just something.
Yeah, I'm with you. And also kind of like having almost like an informal tone sometimes, like a lot of times in business, we want to seem, very responsible and formal. And it seems to me like the formality of communication, when people have a formal communication style, especially in something like email where you can't actually see the person and hear the person. And I think it falls flat. Like the last
100%.
Yeah, I don't want to hear techno babble or corporate speak. And so like, you mentioned like culture before, and that was like one of the things that I was very adamant on. Like, we are not creating a bureaucracy here. Like, we're gonna have transparency, and we're just not gonna play those games, Yeah,
That's true.
important.
It's things can be misconceived, and I think because I mean everyone's going through their own sort of journey on every single day. So like you could send them something, and it's up to them how they receive it, and then how they respond, and that transfer of energy, it's always like you can't ever determine it. So yeah, it's always good just to really rationalize before just being reactive. I think that's very key.
Yeah. Is your team there in Los Angeles with you?
So it's a balance between America and Australia. Now, if we grow, a lot of it is remote, of course, but our main office is in Australia, in Sydney.
So you're from South Africa, but your office is in Australia, and then you're now you're like an international male.
So my Australian partner, he's from South Africa originally. So we had a relationship for years, and then that's how we kind of started the model there, especially because of that business model of buy now, pay later growing so much in Australia. We kind of wanted to work off on that trend and also troubleshoot the solution in a small economy like Australia before growing in America, for instance.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. How has adoption been in America?
It's been really good. We're trying to really focus on a few different verticals to kind of like really add value and build a lot more case studies in particular sectors like recruitment, for instance. But it's good. And it's also been like,
Oh, I didn't mean I was literally just thinking like, recruitment. Actually, so for recruitment, do you mean like paying the recruiting fee?
Correct. So the recruitment fee is usually quite a hefty fee upfront, especially like with initial hires. So that's kind of a sweet spot where people see the value.
Okay. So we're actually looking to hire a salesperson, and we're talking to recruiting firms right now. I imagine with your solution, as the customer in that future transaction between me and a recruiting company, I can't initiate your solution, right? They would have to. The recruiting company would have to.
Both can. The clients, you can, and they can. So as long as they accept it, I mean, at the end of the day, they are going to get paid. Then they're happy. It can work both ways.
Now you have a 4% fee, right? So that in that case, I guess it would be passed on to me. I mean,
correct. We've made it variable, so either the service provider can absorb the fee or pass it on to the client.
Got it. That's really neat. I really like that, and I really like how you just say 4 payments. Not as many as you want. It's defined. That's really smart. I like that a lot.
Sure. Thank you.
That's cool. And fintech there's so much growth opportunity there. You're in a really good industry, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's it's a very big market, and there's really a lot of different niche solutions, like especially even the B2C space. In part of like the ecosystem, I've seen entrepreneurs come up with really incredible products that like add value in such particular sweet spots. So yeah, it's exciting just to see and be a part of the space.
So since you're in fintech, and technology company, obviously, what are your thoughts on things like, Bitcoin, digital dollar, blockchain? Are those integrated in with your solution? Are they coming?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of momentum coming through here. As an entrepreneur, I really look at the gold and shovel analysis. So whenever there's a gold rush, not to just dive in deep and just invest in the gold. Like there's a lot of infrastructure that's going to be inevitable. And that, to me, that's very interesting. It's like the infrastructure around this whole growing space.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I just started tinkering with some cryptocurrencies, and I'm not a big player. I'm not a market mover, but Bitcoin was like kind of what I looked at first, and then I'm like, yeah, but I really want to buy into like the blockchain. How can I buy into blockchain? And came across Ethereum and Cardano, and kind of the shovel concept like you're talking about. Focus on getting as close to the shovel as you can versus the gold. So
That's right. That's interesting. It is interesting.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Well, hey, Alex, I really appreciate your time. It's been about 22 minutes or so. I said 15 to 20 minutes, so I want to let you get back to your work day. What is the best way for someone to get in touch with you if they have any questions about your offering, or just want to talk to you?
I mean, they can email me directly at alex@bizpay.com. More than happy. That'll be great.
Very cool. All right, Alex. Hey, man, I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Great, man. Thank you so much. Cheers.